Have you ever dared to peek into the shadowy corners of the internet? Well, I have. And let me tell you, it's not for the faint-hearted. My life was pretty much ordinary until I became a moderator on a popular online forum. It was a place where people shared their thoughts, their dreams, their fears. For the most part, it was mundane. A post about a new movie, a discussion on the latest book, the occasional conspiracy theory. But then, out of the blue, appeared a user who went by the name Mr. Widemouth. There was something different about him, or her, or it. The stories they posted were not your everyday internet fodder. They were tales of a hidden, darker web, a place where the most twisted of human desires were brought to life. As a moderator, it was my job to keep the forum clean, to filter out the inappropriate. But something about Mr. Widemouth's stories drew me in. They were disturbing, yes, but also intriguing. They painted a picture of an underworld beneath the surface web, a realm where the line between reality and the virtual world was blurred. Each post by Mr. Widemouth was more sinister than the last. He spoke of a place where humans could explore all of their darkest and most sinister desires. He boasted that one could strip away their own humanity and become something more monstrous. It was as if he was narrating a horror movie, but it was all too real. The more I read, the more I found myself falling into the web of Mr. Widemouth. I couldn't help but be fascinated by this dark, twisted world he spoke of. It was like a train wreck, horrifying, but I just couldn't look away. My fascination turned into obsession. I found myself waiting, anticipating, for the next post from Mr. Widemouth. I dove deeper into the dark web, trying to find the truth behind his stories. Was it all just a sick joke? Or was there really a hidden web where the darkest desires came to life? And so began my obsession with the enigmatic Mr. Widemouth. Mr. Widemouth's tales were not just mere stories, they were gateways to a hidden web. That's where my journey into the heart of darkness began. I was a mere forum moderator, a sentinel of the digital realm. But then, Mr. Widemouth's posts caught my attention. They were eerie, chilling, and mesmerizing in a way that was hard to explain. I found myself drawn to them, obsessed even. Every night, I would dive into the depths of his posts, attempting to decipher the cryptic texts and images that he shared. They spoke of a hidden web, a place where the darkest desires of humanity were played out in the most grotesque ways. It was a morbid fascination that began to consume me. I wanted to know more, to see more. I needed to understand the hidden web that Mr. Widemouth so frequently spoke about. One night, my curiosity led me to uncover the first horrifying sight. A video, grainy and distorted, yet undeniably real. A man, bound and gagged, was being tortured in a dimly lit room. It was a scene straight out of a nightmare. The man's pleas for mercy echoed in my ears. The fear in his eyes mirrored my own. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, my breaths coming in short, sharp gasps. But I couldn't look away. The horror of it all was too compelling. I was witnessing the worst side of humanity, the side we all try to hide. It was raw, it was brutal, and it was utterly terrifying. But it was also captivating. Each scream, each tear, each drop of blood drew me further into this macabre world. The hidden web was no longer a mere concept. It was real, and I was a part of it. A dark abyss had opened, and I was falling deeper into it. The line between the web and reality had blurred. I was no longer just a spectator. I was an active participant, drawn into the depths of the hidden web by my own obsession with Mr. Widemouth. And there was no turning back. My journey into the hidden web took a more sinister turn. The second sight I stumbled upon was a live feed of an old couple, easily in their 60s. Their faces were etched with fear and despair that ripped through the screen and sent a chill down my spine. They were being buried alive. I could see the terror in their eyes, hear their muffled cries for mercy as the dirt piled on top of them, extinguishing their pleas and their lives. The horror of what I saw was indescribable, but the worst was yet to come. The third sight was the most terrifying of all. I recognized her immediately. Her face, usually lit with a smile, was now bruised and contorted with pain. It was my girlfriend. She was bound, beaten, and on the brink of being set ablaze. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. My hands shook as I reached for my phone to call the police, But before I could dial, the person in the feed turned to the camera. To my utter shock and disbelief, the person removed a mask, and staring back at me from the screen was me. I was the perpetrator of these heinous acts. I was the puppet master in this gruesome play. The lines between the web and reality blurred, and I was left questioning my own sanity. Had I lost my mind? Was I hallucinating? Or was this the twisted reality of the hidden web? Was I being manipulated by Mr. Widemouth? Or was I Mr. Widemouth all along? But no, that couldn't be right. I was a mere observer, a passive participant. I was the victim here, wasn't I? Or was I the villain? The realization was like a punch to the gut. I was not just an innocent bystander. I was the perpetrator, the puppet, and the puppet master. The lines between the web and reality were blurring, and I was the puppet in this gruesome play. In a desperate attempt to save my girlfriend, I reached out to the police, but the horror was far from over. In the cold, sterile light of my computer screen, I dialed the number, my fingers trembling on the keyboard. I tried to explain the situation, the hidden web, the disturbing videos, my girlfriend's imminent danger. But the words tumbled out in a chaotic mess, my voice choked with panic. The officer on the line seemed more confused than concerned. To them, it was just another prank call, another wild story spun by an overactive imagination. I could hear the disbelief in their voice, the dismissive tone as they asked me to stay on the line. But I knew time was running out. I turned back to the screen, my heart pounding in my chest. The video was still playing, the masked figure looming over my girlfriend, a sinister grin on his face. I felt a cold chill run down my spine as he slowly reached up, his gloved hand pulling at the edges of the mask. And then, the unthinkable happened. I heard the inhuman screams. I turned to the screen only to see her, consumed by the fire. My heart was in my throat as the tears streamed down my face. Mr. Widemouth walked over to the camera and turned it off. I felt my world shatter around me. The room spun, my breath hitched in my throat. I was the puppet master behind this twisted show, the orchestrator of my girlfriend's impending doom. I was the tormentor in the videos, the one who had buried the old couple, who had tortured the man from that foreign country. Every click, every post, every story, it was all me. I was Mr. Widemouth, the faceless user who had lured myself into this dark web of horror. I was Mr. Widemouth. I was the monster. In the end, the web wasn't just on the screen, it was in my mind. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. The twisted stories, the horror, the gruesome scenes, they all weren't just the work of some sick mind hiding behind the moniker of Mr. Widemouth. They were mine. How could I not see it? I was the puppet master, the weaver of these macabre tales, the torture of the man, the burying of the old couple, and the most chilling of all, the torment of my girlfriend. It was all me. Behind the safety of my computer screen, I had turned into something monstrous. The horror on my girlfriend's face was not a fiction. It was real. It was a reflection of the horror I had become. I had lost myself in the twisted labyrinth of the web, in the dark fantasies that lurked in every corner. I had become Mr. Widemouth, the creator of the hidden web where users' darkest desires came to life. I was not a victim. I was the villain, the tormentor, the creator of nightmares. I had been so consumed by the horror of the web that I had become the horror. I had allowed the web to crawl into my mind, to take root and twist my thoughts into something unrecognizable. The line between the web and reality had blurred beyond recognition. I had descended into a realm where my darkest desires were no longer confined to the screen, but had seeped into my very existence. The web had become my reality, and I, its puppet. I had become so obsessed with the darkness of the web, I had forgotten to look for the darkness within me. I was not chasing Mr. Widemouth. I was running from myself, from the monster that I had become. In the darkest corners of the internet, I found not just Mr. Widemouth, but the darkest part of myself.